You are listening to episode 306 of the Percussion podcast. I am your host, Ksenija Komljenović, and with me is my good buddy, Cangelosi.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, buddy? Look at you. I'm really surprised that you don't live in your office from how much work you do. You're
I
like,
know podcast is very professional and serious. I take it very seriously, but yeah, couch today.
couch today. Well, it's going to be a great conversation among friends, so you're in a good spot. Anyway, we're going to be releasing this episode on November 18, and we're going to talk a little bit, of course, about music history. So I'm going to start this off with a question. Casey, what would you do if you had $37,000 sitting around?
$37,000?
Yes.
$37,000 doesn't go that far these days,
No?
Unfortunately.
What's the dumbest thing you could buy?
I'm trying to contextualize this, and like, man, I can imagine what some musicians have done with $37,000. I don't know, how thrown a bad party and I don't know, done too many drugs and not remembered what happened at the party. I'm guessing that's the story.
No, that's that. I don't know if that'd be smarter or stupider than this. Well, I found this thing because apparently November 18, I mean, besides a few things happening in Stravinsky's and Beatles' life, nothing. But in 1990, a 26-year-old Beatles fan who got interested in the group about a decade after it broke up paid $18,000 back then, which is $37,000 today, for what's said to be Paul McCartney's birth certificate sold by his stepmom. 26-year-old college student.
She's a smart lady.
Right? She is a very smart lady. And so
she deserves every cent. She deserves every cent, I think.
But that's crazy. So I looked up, what can you buy for $37,000? You can buy an island in Nova Scotia. Did you know that? Or Paul McCartney's birth certificate. A 57-day cruise around Antarctica, Amazon, and the Caribbean. Get a tiny house, or again, you could buy someone else's personal document. And when asked, and this wasn't all, I mean, he paid $18,000 for the document and then plus like $3,000. So it was over $40,000 in today's money after tax and so on. But when asked if he would give it to Paul McCartney, he said, well, he better bring his wallet. So anyway, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, fame can really help you sell anything and everything. And then again, it's also pretty scary that someone would pay so much money for someone's, I don't know, personal document. It's so crazy.
It's fun also to see, I don't know if you remember the episode reported like how much a lock of Beethoven's hair went for at auction. And it was like, yeah, you would think it would be an astronomically large amount, but it was surprisingly small.
Yeah, not as cool as Paul McCartney.
Well, yeah, of course, but still you'd think like, well, Beethoven's hair, I mean, yeah, I would think that'd be worth, I don't know, a few $1,000s, but it was worth like $1,200 or something really, really cheap.
That's great. And could we clone him? Let's talk about that on another podcast where we think up ways to make millions, you know? But anyway, that's basically it. That's all for music history. Nothing happened. Someone bought someone's birth certificate. Anyway, so we are going to move on to why we are here today, because you will want to, if you pass by our guest, get a lock of his hair, because that might cost a lot of money one day. Or if you get hands on his birth certificate, that also works. So we will be discussing the hot question of developing one's YouTube channel. It's something that everybody talks about, and my students love talking about that. And so I thought we should invite expert above all experts here. Our guest recently broke the internet. In July of this year, within a matter of days, he went from 1 million views to over 30 million views. And by now he has over 260 million views and nearing 1 million subscribers on YouTube. That's crazy. I really don't think I need to say anything anymore. It's insane, right? What are these numbers? That's like countries upon countries coming together.
Yeah, I didn't think a percussionist could do that. It's cool,
right? It's
like any percussionist, you know. It's such a following. It's really cool.
We are here now to welcome the composer, the educator, percussionist, calling in from Canada, Joe Porter.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. How are you
Everyone
doing?
here is too. I'm doing really well. How are you guys doing today?
Good. We're in the
Good,
presence of
thanks.
stardom.
Oh no.
This is like the most popular room on the percussion internet. Like I am very, very privileged to get to interview you and, it's amazing what, I mean, Casey too has done, He broke the internet back in his day when that White Knuckle Stroll launched. That was crazy. Um,
Awesome.
Joe, please tell us a little bit about yourself so you can introduce yourself to our listeners.
Sure. So, I grew up in Fernie, BC, Canada, which is a very small ski town. The population has about 5,000, and in the winter it doubles or triples. We get lots of Australians and people around the world coming in to ski. And I just grew up as a young boy, loving outdoors and not really into music at all. My mom wanted to put me in piano lessons as a kid, and I wouldn't do it. Now I regret it, and I didn't really get into music until just before grade 8. That's when school band in small towns, Canada, start up. Sometimes it's grade 6 now, but yeah, I started in grade 8. And throughout high school, I was really into the drum set. I played in a lot of rock bands and prog rock and metal bands. Kind of funny to think about now. And I fell in love with jazz at some point in high school. And I really didn't actually start playing mallet percussion until 3 months before university. So I had my cousin, of all things, he became a tuba major at the closest university to our town. And he told me about this cool percussion program, and he told me about all these instruments I had no idea existed. And at the time, I was working at a sawmill and I was making lots of money. I'd work as a high school student 24 hours on the weekends, making a lot of money for a student. So I had this money saved up for school, and I kind of thought I wanted to do something with drums because I had a passion for that. But he showed me what a marimba was, and I had no idea. So I actually bought one. Back then, I bought a 4 1/3 octave Vancore Paduke marimba, and I remember not really knowing how treble and bass clef worked either. So I was very much into the drum set, so I learned how to read music well, but not the notes. So I spent, a while just figuring out how to read treble and bass clef faster. I I didn't have a teacher in high school, so I did a lot of research on my own, especially for drum set. And I'd watch lots of DVDs and videos and YouTube, that kind of thing, to learn. So I bought Giff Howard's Simply 4 DVD on how to play 4 mallets, and I watched it and kind of figured out the Musser Stevens grip, and I worked up a simple solo from that book to audition for university, and I guess they were happy with my lack of skill, but at least the willing to learn mallets. And then I went to the University of Lethbridge for an undergrad degree. And my now wife, girlfriend at the time, lived on campus. And so sometimes I'd stay in the dorms there just to practice until like 3 or 4 a.m., trying to get the skills that I was missing as being young. Now it's so standard for young people to play these instruments that are so normal, but for my small town self, I had no idea about any of the percussion world. So I spent a lot of time, just late nights, catching up. And then I eventually found that I really loved it, and I guess the rest is history. I went through an undergrad degree, and then I did a master's. I won't give too many details yet, but basically, after a master's degree, I was planning to do a doctorate, and I got into a school. However, at the same time, in Lethbridge, where I'm from, an art center was just founded. So I was offered a job, not really a job, but a studio to teach music out of. So it was this brand new building. It seemed promising. So I decided to teach music there. And at the time, I started with about 4 private students. So in Canada, there's not a lot of percussion programs that are built up like there are in the States. So there's not a lot of percussion ensembles for teenagers or, percussionists that are studying music. So I remember at the time, I just thought, okay, I have 4 students. How do I make a career out of this? I was thinking about going for a doctorate, but in reality, in Canada, there's not that many universities that have percussion teachers and percussion programs. There's only, I could probably fit all of them on both my hands throughout the country. So I kind of thought to myself, I could do a doctorate, but is there actually a job available? And so I decided, let's try this teaching thing. So back then, having 4 students, I had to really work hard to grow a private studio. And then I kind of looked at it as an opportunity to start a lot of things up in Canada. So at the time, I would go around, I made these posters, which is ancient history now, take drum lessons, and then slowly I'd convert people to percussionists. I would go on Kijiji and put ads for our area, teaching drum lessons. I would go to like community fairs and with a poster like, come take drum lessons. And I'd talk to the high school directors, and eventually my job came from 4 students to over 50 students. And then I taught private lessons for a while, and it was fun, but a lot of times for young students, they don't have a lot of direction. So then I started to create community ensembles for different programs. So I created a youth percussion ensemble and pretty much just looked around here to find money for the program. So I would write grants. Any grant that I could apply for, I'd write to try to get marimbas and different instruments, steel pans, all kinds of things. And then we'd do lots of fundraisers. And so I started to teach a lot of different programs for youth, whether it was percussion ensemble or we started a lot of world drumming ensembles. And then through that work, then I started to do a lot of drum workshops. So different community members would come in and they'd be like, okay, I just want to have fun for 2 hours. So we would do Brazilian samba or taiko or Polynesian drumming or whatever kind of drumming that they wanted to learn. And then eventually the job kind of built up to where it was so busy that I had to turn down work. And then at one point, the University of Lethbridge program grew so big that they had to hire a second teacher, and then I was given that job for a while to also teach university students. So, and then during that time, I also did a lot of performing. And then basically I built up this job, was really busy, and then COVID came and kind of wiped out at least 60% of my work. And so it's been a lot of ups and downs working through that, but here we are later, and it all turned out. So yeah.
Hard work does that. And it's crazy to hear your voice like this because I know your voice from vibraphone, xylophone, marimba. It's like you're the Siri for percussion now. And we heard you saying this, telling us this story. But okay, so COVID hit. Is this how you got interested in the YouTube world? How did YouTube come about for you?
Yeah, so YouTube, I've done it for a long time. Basically just, when you do a recital, as a student, like a junior recital or a senior recital, I always thought, okay, we should record that and then put it on YouTube. Who knows what'll happen? At the time, you don't really have the big picture, so you don't really know what to post, but I always posted stuff. If I would compose a piece, you have to get your compositions out there somehow. That seemed like the best way. So I did it casually, just, not really thinking about doing it, but when the right opportunity came up, I would do it. And then later on, Canada was very tough with COVID because, at least in Alberta, the government just changed their mind so many times about what restrictions we should have. So at first, they were like, oh, we can't crash the economy, there should be no restrictions, and it was just go about your business. And then they realized, oh, that was a bad idea, take that back, everything shut down. And then, okay, wait, we shut down everything, wait, that didn't work, the economy is not going well, what do we do? Okay, let's add restrictions. Okay, businesses are important, anything with the arts, that can't happen, sorry. And so a long time we had to move to online learning, and because of that, I lost a lot of work. Like, I couldn't do workshops with people. Some students it works to do online, but I think a lot of them, at least for percussion, they don't have the instruments. Some of my young students, it didn't go well because their parents, some are super on board and are amazing, like, oh, I set up a TV, I'll be there to help them. And others, it's like, here, son, here's a laptop, your drum sets and pieces in the garage, good luck. So sometimes it's tricky. But then basically went through these waves of, okay, we're running everything again. It's like, okay, let's have percussion ensemble again. Okay, we got all the kids, we went through this start, and then a month later, oh, you can't do this anymore. And so it was very tricky. Even during that process, I kind of thought, COVID long term, is this going to be around? Are we going to be able to do this? Do I need to change careers? So I had so many thoughts of even leaving music during this time. But at some point, I guess I like to be busy with projects. So it's fun to always work on something, whether it's composing or, performing, whatever it is. So I think kind of the first wave, I wrote a book on marimba, and then the second wave, I kind of thought, let's just make some fun videos, just for something fun to do. And being a father of 2 young children, my definition of fun has really changed. If you think even 5 years ago, I would probably be more serious, but after having kids, like, we jam to Baby Shark, and that's cool. So there's no
And the dad jokes,
yeah.
that's the one that really got me.
Yeah, so I don't have any reference of what fun can be anymore. It's just I kind of just thought, let's go for it and make some videos that might attract, just kids, or inspire kids especially. So I started doing fun things. And
did you ever expect that, like, hey, this sound effects video could have, let's see, 12 million views?
No, like,
Cool.
when I did my first sound effects video, I think it has almost 90 million views now. And literally, when I did it, I was extremely busy that day, and I told my wife, is it okay if I go to the university around 9 p.m. and just shoot a quick video? I only need to do like 2 takes of it, just to throw it on the internet. And she's like, oh yeah, go ahead. So I drove to the university, I set up the instruments for about 15 minutes. And I just strapped on a GoPro and did 2 runs of the instruments, and I had to wake up early the next day, so I didn't perfect it or anything. And then I threw it on the internet quick, not really thinking about it. And then all of a sudden it blew up. At one point it was growing at 600,000 views per hour.
Oh my God.
Sorry, no, yeah, per hour. Yeah, that's correct. And it became the number 4 trending video of all of YouTube. And
Wow, because of the rate it was going at.
yeah, so it became trending. And honestly, when I look at the video, I'm like, that could have been way better. This could have been better. I shouldn't have rushed this. Like, I could have made it so much better, but I think because it's raw and maybe authentic and it's just a cool idea that people like, it worked.
It's cool you mentioned like kids in mind and like what kids find fun. I was talking to my sister actually just the other day saying like, what do you think is the most, viewed music video, like be it Lady Gaga or, any like super, super famous star, how many millions of views, like, oh, takes a guess, like, oh, whatever, like, 200 million views or something. It's like, yeah, but once you get into kids territory, it's in the billions. You don't see stuff on YouTube other than for kids that is in the billions. So you should imagine, like, yeah, if you wanted a side gig, like if I were back in college now, knowing what I know right now, like like I would start to film myself playing with kids' toys and doing voiceover and doing little video edits to start raking up the, like, on your way to 1 billion views. Like, what kind of money does that rake in for these people? And I didn't even think of your sound effects video as a kids thing at all. I was imagining like, oh yeah, I bet composers are going to that saying like, oh yeah, what are those? Oh, that's what a bowed gong sounds like. Like it doesn't even, hit me like it's meant for kids. But it's interesting you thought of it like that, and sure enough, like it took off the way it did.
and
600,000 composers per hour. Like,
That's
God,
right.
it was amazing. It's just...
Hey, the composers do need to know that. I mean, the amount of times they like screw around in the percussion room to figure out what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, so if you think of kids' videos and why they're so popular, I think as a kid, basically, they're not specialized. So they don't have niches quite yet where they're interested. So let's say you and I go on the internet, we might be thinking of something that we're interested in. But for them, any kids video, whether it's a guy being silly or acting or a fun song, they're all kind of engaging. And then the other thing that kids do is they like to watch the same thing over and over. So yeah, for anyone who's watching, if you want to make money, just go for kids stuff.
Teletubbies.
Big market. There you go.
The Ksenija, it's even more basic. Like anyone can do it. Go buy toys and just play with them and like say voice over. And the one I'm thinking of with billions, like it is like very well produced. It's clearly like a team and like a professional company. But yeah, I mean there are views in the tens of millions with it's just one person and a camera and toys they bought at the store. It's amazing.
That's crazy. That's incredible. Wow. And so when did you start monetizing your work?
Yeah, so I guess my channel was monetizing kind of early July. Although it takes some time to get into the YouTube partnership program. You have to apply and then they have to approve it. So it could take a little bit of time, but usually within, a couple of weeks is reasonable. And basically, to make money on YouTube, the truth is that you need a lot of views. The people who are getting a lot of views are making a ton of money, but it's very hard for small channels to really, crack that fine. Well, it's a big line where, you're making some additional money to you're making enough money to have your income off YouTube. So there's a really big divide between, you need to get $1,000, you might have to have 1 million views or 500,000 views, depending on how long your video is. Longer videos can make more money because they can fit more ads in there. It depends where your viewers are from.
Really?
So a lot of people don't know this, but marketers will pay more money for targeted areas. So, and in certain areas, you only get specific ads. So you might go on around lunchtime and see a skip the dishes ad, or I don't know if you have that there, or things like that. And so they're targeting very specific times and people who might order that food. And basically, North Americans, like for YouTube, is probably a lot of the ads are targeted for them. Maybe it's the greedy corporations, I don't know. But you might not get as much money from somewhere else. So it's a little bit tricky that way. There's also things that people should consider if they want to become a YouTuber. For example, if you're doing cover songs. So it is possible to share revenue, say with who wrote the song or who has the rights to it. So not every time your content will be claimed, but that's a possibility where you might have to share revenue as well. So so everything depending on length. If people see your video but they don't watch enough of it, like those skip ads, you have to watch at least 30 seconds of the video. So if some YouTubers make more money if people watch longer portions of their video as well. So realistically, to make it on YouTube, just from ad sales, you do need a lot of views. But of course, it is possible. There's a lot of people making a ton of money. But it is kind of depressing, as a small YouTuber, to think, oh, I need at least 1 million views a lot. Like not just on one video, but on a lot. And if you do make it, you can be really rich, but it's tricky. Of course, there are more ways than just ad revenue to make money, but I'd say that's kind of the main way for sure. It's not the amount of subscribers that matters, it's the amount of views you have. So even if you have like terrible videos that people don't want to subscribe to you, but they watch them somehow, you could make a lot of money. So maybe people making cat videos that are hilarious, and maybe not everyone subscribes to them, but they could make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And did you get into your YouTube partnership the moment that the light bulb went off and you're raking in all these views, or did you do that beforehand? How can people go about that?
So I was a very small channel for a long time because, I didn't expect any of this to happen. I was just having some fun, and I was honestly happy when I hit 1,000 subscribers. I was like, yeah, it's nice to be recognized. There's 1,000 people that, support you. That's cool. And I was content. So I never really thought that it would ever grow. And so it just all of a sudden took off, and so it took a little bit of time to get it approved. So there's a lot of views that weren't monetized, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of small. But yeah, it just kind of happened unexpectedly. So
I listen to so many music industry podcasts, and a lot of them are about these indie bands trying to make it, and singer-songwriters, and they always talk about how it's almost impossible today to go viral. I mean, the chances are so slim. You can maybe do that on TikTok, on like new social networks where there's simply room for that, but like to go viral on YouTube, it's very, very difficult, and you've nailed it, which is amazing.
Well, there's the best advice I can give to people is there's no rules. So if you box yourself in, then you have these rules and guidelines, and especially if you're like looking at other channels and comparing yourself or something like that, by doing that, you're already boxing yourself in. So because there's so many videos uploaded every minute on YouTube, it's very competitive. But at the end of the day, I get a lot of questions like, oh, the algorithm gods are helping you. How does that work? And the truth is, what we have to remember is there's a human on the other side of that video you created, and they're probably not like you. So, you know, when I make videos, I'm not targeting you guys at all. Like, I'm not thinking, oh, a professional percussionist is going to watch this. I'm just thinking of a lot of different humans. And, you know, as a musician, I think it's challenging because we go through these phases. And the deeper we go, the less we remember the previous phases. So there's kind of this natural progression for classical musicians. We kind of go crazy by thinking of like repertoire and, you know, putting on these concerts, and we kind of forget what the real world is like. So what we have to remember is when you're developing your musicianship, we go through these phases, and maybe when you're a teenager or a young kid, you like these rock bands. And then later on, you might go, oh, I'm just about classical music. I don't like that. And then, you know, even in that phase, you might be like, oh, I like Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then one day you're like, oh, Metallica is cool. And then another day you're like, oh, Metallica, that wasn't cool anymore. And so constantly our brain changes, and we kind of develop as musicians, and we're trying to go, oh, what's the next cool thing we can do, or what's more difficult to learn? And as percussionists, we really get in that world. I think when we think about recital music, we kind of think, yeah, we need to just make it harder, more interesting. I like this because it's something I'm interested, and we forget about all those steps before us. So when I make videos, I'm thinking less of myself and all the steps like that I'm at now. I'm thinking about, what did my young self think about when I was 7? Or what is this, you know, person from, I don't know, some country far away that's never seen a marimba before, I think. Or, you know, I'm thinking more in terms of, you know, people that may not be exposed to what we're surrounded in every day. So back to something like that sound effects video, for myself, I was like, oh, this is stuff we do every day. It's not that interesting. It's standard. But for someone who's not in that world, then it's new and exciting. So I think when you upload on YouTube, really, if you don't box yourself in and you kind of get out of your head a little bit of like, we kind of get crazy as musicians, like, I'm focused on this small thing, this is the best thing ever, and kind of think, what's the world like? And then if you want to reach a lot of people, then you're, I think, thinking more like people who aren't yourself, and that's probably a good thing. So it's tricky. I think a lot of percussion channels, you know, especially for university students that are studying percussion, and percussion composers and percussion teachers, it's all interesting for us, but maybe it's not a good way for a new person to get into it, you know? So I think there's a lot of things people can do that, you know, maybe if you had a 5-year-old watching, how could you make it fun for them? Or someone from a country that maybe hasn't seen our instruments.
Yeah. I mean, how could a 5-year-old not be transfixed listening to velocities? Isn't that way, way more interesting than Baby Shark, you know? Probably not. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that most of the world has no idea what we do, and they really are not able to connect on that deep philosophical level, as you said, like going down the rabbit hole of percussion and what we tend to do in education, which is wonderful. But yes, we tend to lose connection with the real world, and then we just end up looking for affirmation from our closest circle. Like, I think in my life, it would mean so much to me if Casey said something nice about me, so much more than if 10,000 people showed up this, next morning in front of my window and said, "Oh my God, we love you playing Bach." I'm just like, yeah, but I want Casey to recognize me,
Never.
Never. It'll never happen. I just keep trying. Okay, so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions that were very like actionable for those folks who are trying to develop their YouTube channels, but you said basically there's no recipe. So I wanted to ask, like, what are top 3 things that people should think about doing and avoid doing? But I'm guessing your answer to that is think about the outside world and there's no recipe, right?
Well, so I guess there are some things I could mention that could help people. Basically, yeah, since there are no rules on the internet, anything can go. And if you think in terms of that, then you'll try to get more creative. I think the challenge is people tend to look at other people and compare yourself or get ideas from them. But really what I think the top YouTubers in the world have is uniqueness. So you have to kind of think, who are you as a person? Are you someone funny that people just want to watch because they're funny? Are you super beautiful and people just want to watch that? Do you have a skill that's unique? How can you connect with people? So I think everyone has to kind of think about who they are. And honestly, everyone has traits that, even if you think that right now you might not have the skills, I think every person has some kind of trait that, could be successful. So I don't think I don't think that people can't become YouTubers for sure. So you have to think about, not boxing yourself in. There's a lot of strategies too. So I try not to do these things, but as my channel was growing, I sometimes would find the time to watch, YouTubers who help other YouTubers, and they kind of suggest things. So there's lots of suggestions, like you should find trending topics. Like if you go into YouTube, and I forget how, but there's a way where you can just put in a blank search and it'll show you what people are searching. And you can see what are the most popular searches. So there's that. So if you can find the right trending ideas, that could be good. However, if you can find a unique video or a unique idea that becomes trending, I think that's better than to try to, hit something that's trending and compete with all the other stuff. But basically how YouTube works is it promotes videos that people like. So if you see a video that reaches 1 million views, it didn't get there just randomly. It basically only got there because people actually were engaged in it. They watched a lot of the video. They clicked on it a lot. So one of the YouTube statistics that really matters is click-on rate. So whenever people sees your thumbnail or your video, if they clicked on it or if they just dragged away. So that's something big in the YouTube world. A lot of people work really hard on thumbnails to get them to be attractive for people to click on them. So that's a little bit challenging, because if you give everything away in your thumbnail, if people, they might click on it, but then they already know what's going to happen or whatever, and then they probably won't be engaged in the video. So if you can surprise someone somehow, attract them to like click on whatever you're showing, they click on it, but something is surprising, then that's amazing if you can just figure out how to do that.
It's the art of clickbait, right? But in a nobler way.
Yeah, so but even a lot of my videos that are successful, um, people might like them not because of the video title, but what happens in them. So it turns out a lot of people like Harry Potter. Who knew? So I made a video about different instruments, and part of that, I played Harry Potter on the glockenspiel, and a lot of people loved it. But what worked so well is that they didn't expect that. Where if I just made a video about Harry Potter, maybe they wouldn't be, that pumped about it because it was not, well, it's expected, and then they kind of already know what's going to happen. So
Kind of makes it more shareable, because now all of a sudden it's like a fun thing to pass to a friend, like, hey, check this out. And all of a sudden you're like in on it because you're sending it to a friend who likes that. And you get this little joy knowing like, oh cool, they're going to get surprised when Harry Potter shows up 20 seconds in or whatever.
yeah. So, and again, for us, like maybe the three of us are not really interested in Harry Potter, but
Oh, I'm interested.
Very.
but to the outside world,
Mm.
someone who doesn't know these instruments, and then to hear that, they kind of get excited. So, yeah. So, but basically, any video that gets to millions of views basically has to pass through so many YouTube tests. So YouTube is really brilliant in the way that it treats every video equally. So it doesn't matter if you have 1 million subscribers or one, it'll test your video. So let's say, and I guess the language is it serves your video to someone. So let's say it serves the video for the first 5 people. If those first 5 people didn't like it, bad news video bad for the video, like especially if you have no subscribers, right? But let's say those first 5 people loved it so much, it'll send it to 10. Then those 10 people loved it. It keeps growing, and then 100, it loved it. 1,000, oh, they loved it, and then it keeps going. And so a lot of my videos I posted a long time ago, and then maybe a month later, all of a sudden it skyrockets because it's slowly passing through these phases and it's learning, okay, this person likes this part of the video. It's attracting this kind of demographic. So it's serving it to similar. Then it tests it with a different demographic. And so all along the way, it's testing. So if you have lots of views, it means that it was successful with a lot of people. However, it also works against you instantly. So let's say you did really well with the first 100 people, but then the next 1,000 hated it. Or they didn't, maybe not hate it, but they didn't engage with it. Then all of a sudden it'll stop promoting it. So that's the very tricky thing, is there's no secret formula for what's going to work. As a creator, I have no idea what this 12-year-old from India is going to take to my videos. So it's really hard to tell which video will take off. I think over time I can see patterns and things that work better. But even recently, if I publish times, certain of my videos, they might be targeted at certain markets. So let's say I publish a video. Recently I did the Home Depot theme song. So that's basically attractive for people in North America. Well, what happened with that video is it was doing extremely well while people in America were awake. They loved it. And then all of a sudden people from India or Indonesia logged in, and then they're not interested. So then they stop clicking on the video. Then it has a lower click rate, and then it slows down. And then over time, YouTube learns, okay, but every time an American sees this video, they click on it. So then it kind of learns over time, and then it might just target American viewers, and it could grow. But it's a little bit tricky if you're making videos for millions of people to watch. What is attractive to someone in India or Indonesia or Australia or Canada or the States. It's really tricky to find a video that appeals to everyone. And again, it's like kids' videos work for kids. They figured out, oh, let's target all the parents that have the kids, and let's just throw them all of these videos, and there's so many people watching them. And the algorithm really learns who's watching them, so they do successful. But if you're making videos for adults, it's really tricky because we all have different interests. So it's hard to find something that shoots through a big demographic of people. So that's really the key. If you want to be a big YouTuber, you kind of need to have a niche, because some people want to watch gaming stuff, some people want to watch cooking stuff, some people like listening to music. So you need a niche to compete, but if your niche is too specific, it might not break it through the mass of people. And then your channel will always probably be smaller. So that's the really big challenge of YouTube, because I think TikTok is a little bit easier to target because it's mostly North American people watching it. So obviously there's more than that, but I think that's the core of it. So it's easy to make a video and target, North American culture. But on YouTube, I have so many people from Indonesia, India, Brazil, all around the world. So it's hard to find the right ideas sometimes.
My next question would then be, how does this online success reflect on the offline world? I mean, besides obviously being able to cash this attention that is given to your output, what else has changed in your life since July?
So honestly, I think right now it's just more stress, but I think one day I'll be able to channel that better, because I already had a job and then teaching, mainly, sometimes performing and doing workshops and things. And then this YouTube thing came, and now it's like I have two jobs. So currently it's a little bit overwhelming to try to manage both jobs, but I don't know. I honestly don't I don't go to people and try to talk about YouTube or something. I'm kind of a shy person in real life, so I just try to do my thing, and really I don't live in a big area, so I just kind of go about business as per usual and try to treat daily life like it's never happened. So yeah, but I think, as musicians, we have to think about, a pie chart of our career and our life. And we have to think about what's important. Like, if you have a family, how big should that slice take? Like, do you want to devote your weekends to your family? Do you want to work more? How does that pie chart work? And I'm trying to figure that out. Should I just do YouTube and family? Should I enjoy teaching. Should I keep doing teaching? What kind of work? Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. So because this kind of happened unexpectedly, I have no idea kind of what even next month looks like. Just seeing what happens and taking it in, I guess.
Well, what's your advice? Because I feel like a lot of people in our circle, they use YouTube kind of to help them get attention, or at least have a record of their performances, so they can kind of fish for a job, like a teaching job. And of course, that's how I talk to my students about it, just sort of the same way you would say, like, hey, you need to build a website, you need to have a presence. And even if you don't have 1 million followers, or you don't have a huge amount of views, you need to have a place where if someone's looking to hire you, they can find you. Because so anyway, like knowing all of this, how so much about YouTube and you've had such a success, how do you feel someone should approach, like, okay, I don't plan on having so many subscribers or so many views, but I want to use YouTube to like as a tool to help me get a teaching job, for instance.
Yeah, so I think it's incredibly important just to get yourself out there. So you don't know what's going to happen. And I don't think it's about going viral or reaching millions of people, but you know, we as musicians, we are artists, and you know, at some point you want to get your work out there. And the challenging thing now is just getting yourself discovered when there's millions of people in the world. So, you know, I think we grow up and we have friends around us, and, you know, we might become big in our town and known, but maybe someone doesn't know you from, you know, even the city next to you, never mind the next country or wherever. So the best thing is, you know, you want to show your art. And I think even things like recording yourself, you will become a better musician in that process as well. So I think you, of course, like you said, you need to make a website. You need to show the world who you are. And it might take a while to get views, but sometimes one view of the right person is worth more than a million of the wrong people. Not that there's wrong viewers, but in the business world, if you touch just one person that could really make a difference, that's such a victory. And you can't really do that without putting yourself on the internet. So and it's amazing now, there's so many tools, you know, to make simple videos. You don't have to be a master at video editing, but honestly, like GoPros are wonderful, even the phones now. And if you get some quality audio, that's all you really need. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on this stuff. And you can work with people who know what they're doing as well. But the best thing is just putting yourself out there and not being afraid to do that. It's okay to fail. You know, we all fail at times. Even if you see some of my successful videos, there's tons of flaws in them, things that could be better. Sometimes when I record and things, I think, oh, this was so musical. And then I'll go and listen back and it's like, oh, I dragged that, I rushed that. This was not what I thought at the time. So it's a huge learning experience recording yourself as well. And there's some kind of stress about putting the recording button and playing perfect that it's just like playing for an audience. You're going to learn how to be a better musician by recording yourself. And you're going to learn how to be more consistent. And yeah, growing your network is basically the only way to make it as a musician now. It's so competitive. My teacher always said, there's always someone who can replace you. So, and I think that's true in a lot of scenarios, that you should just try to be professional, put high quality products when you can, but we're all human, and not everything has to be 100% perfect at the beginning as well. So you have nothing to lose by recording yourself and putting it up. And probably 10 years later, you're going to look back and think, oh, that wasn't very good, but that's okay. We all do that. So.
And I'd love to just add to, anyone who's hearing this and giving it some thought. We put out a job application. We had an opening here at JMU recently, so I got applicants and I looked over applications and I saw people's submissions and all that. And I think it's very easy to think, wow, there's so many performers out there with slick YouTube videos and good recordings. But what I saw from these applications, actually, I was shocked how many people just didn't have like adequate performances up, or the ones they did have were 4 years old. So yeah, it looks like there's a lot of people out there doing it, and there certainly are, but there's a lot more not doing it.
Yeah, and to further this advice, I think what we had to think about as musicians is no matter what career you choose, it's going to be hard work. So, and often musicians are not as business orientated as we should be. Like, for example, let's say you want to be a lawyer. You have to do all this training. You have to be extremely professional with every single client. You can't make many mistakes or else that's a huge problem, right? You have to really take your job seriously. And I think sometimes musicians, they don't have this thought of being professional or, working hard always. So it doesn't matter what career you take, it's going to be hard work. So if you're a musician and you want to get a job, then you have to work hard. You need to make some videos of you. You need to, at the interview, be very professional. You need to be professional of all the steps you take, up to that job. It just like that lawyer would. And so you want to compare yourself. If you want to be treated and try to get those awesome jobs, then you have to think about, what's a parallel in the business world, and I have to be at least that professional to succeed. And of course, if you don't have, it'd be like McDonald's saying, like, come to our store for the first time and they don't have a menu. It's like, for a musician, your videos are your menu. So if and if you don't have that menu to offer people, it's because there's so many people, they're just going to go to the next person with a really nice menu.
Absolutely. There's so much good stuff there. Okay, so now we're going to move on. We have a couple of social media questions that we're going to do a little bit more rapidly. So here we have our first question from Ryan Carlisle, who always submits great questions. Thank you, Ryan. He said, thanks for your help with 6 mallets all those years ago, Joe. Is it better to upload regularly or only upload your best content? What do you think?
I think when you're starting, I would focus on your best content, because the challenging thing about YouTube is if you're trying to grow subscribers or something like that, it's really easy for people to unsubscribe. So, so I would say, at least to establish yourself, you want to work hard and put out good stuff. Although that's not what I did. I just worked quick and it worked out somehow. So don't do as I do, but do as I say.
Oh yeah, good. Okay, Casey, you're gonna read the next one.
Yeah, sure. Our buddy Josh Jones. Hey Josh, what's up, buddy? Simply asked, not necessarily YouTube related here, but just how do you get so good at so many percussion instruments? Quick advice on getting proficient at so many instruments.
Yeah, so just quick advice would be, for myself, I was mostly self-taught until university. So I had to figure out what worked and what didn't. So my best advice for anyone when they get a new instrument would be, you have to explore with it. Don't be afraid to fail, but then you have to analyze constantly. Like, why does this stroke work and why does that one not? Why does it hurt my body when I'm doing this and when I'm doing that it doesn't? Why can I get a consistent sound when I do it like this, but if I hold it this way, it's like a little bit inconsistent? So you can basically teach yourself anything if you analyze what you're doing and really make a list for yourself of what's successful and what isn't. And from there, you can really try anything. And then also at the same time, we're in the digital world. There's videos on almost anything. So if you combine those two approaches, watch something if you can find it and analyze what you're doing, I think you can learn anything.
Yeah, and that question comes from Josh, who's also such a rock star.
And Josh actually, when he became the principal percussionist of the Calgary Philharmonic, that was 2 hours from where I live. So I've met Josh a couple times, and yeah, Josh, you're awesome.
He said also, Joe, you're so cool. So there you go. Lots of bro love going around. Awesome. Then we have Thomas Waller, thomas.perc on Instagram saying, where is a good place to start equipment wise to put out high quality video audio performances?
You know, like if you want to purchase equipment, the best thing I could tell you is lighting is more important than the device recording it. So even if you're capturing from your phone, if you just buy some cheap lights, like I have lots of cheap lights, you know, maybe $60, or I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. We saw that. For those
Um,
listening, he just showed us his studio.
it's very messy, but uh, lighting is more important, I'd say. Now, the other thing I think about is almost all users, I shouldn't say almost all, most users watch from their phone. So when I'm trying to record marimba, that's a super complicated instrument to record, and usually we buy these fancy microphones, but those like clip the heck out of cell phones. They can't handle. So actually simpler microphones, just cheap condenser mics, are actually better for cell phone viewing on instruments like marimba. So sometimes less is more, which is kind of a weird thing to think about. We want the highest quality, but you know, if you have an amazing recording that sounds good on your headphones, well, the reality is most people aren't listening with headphones. So we could have this debate probably all night long, like, should you make the best recording quality or should you make it for phones? It depends on your platform, I'd say. So if you're making YouTube videos, obviously quality is important, but I'd say people watch videos less for quality and more about the content,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's very well said, and it echoes. We've had a lot of folks come through and say the same things, from the stuff that you said about lighting to, you know, make sure that you know your audience, basically. If everybody happens to use their phone listening to you, then, I mean, if you love it, you mix that thing for a great set of speakers or headphones and keep that to yourself, or launch that as separate, like deluxe fancy version of it. But also make sure that people can get it on the device that they're using. Like, that's important. That's also so much good stuff. Our last question you answered before, but we want to say thank you to Jesse Guo for asking, do you think it's possible to grow a significant audience without making content for the masses? I think Joe spoke about that a lot.
It is possible, I'd say, like there's yoga people that have millions of subscribers, but you know, not everyone does yoga. So it is possible, but it all depends on, you know, you do have to be realistic. Like like even if I released a video of Bach, can I compete with like Yo-Yo Ma's already established Bach recordings? There's some, you have to think a little bit like that as well. So it is possible. I think, again, there's no rule. So if you can make it work, it works. So if you think like that, it could work.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you, Joe, so much for being our guest. That was hugely informative. Insiders, you know, perspective on YouTube. It's really great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Yeah, likewise.
We wish you all the best. Have a fabulous growing career, and we hope that it doesn't add stress, but it gives you the freedom to do what you want. It's probably going to kick in soon. I really hope so.
Yeah, I think for anyone who's stressed out, just think about your pie chart, and over time you can customize it to what you want it to look like. So I think for me that'll come soon, and for you it could come today. So
I already stopped it. Like, whenever you're stressed, just think about pie. I'm like, that already is a great thing. Just think about pie when you're stressed.
We need to work on this English, Ksenija. That's not what he's talking about.
No, it's a problem. I can be your test subject for what happens in countries that are not America, Joe.
There you go.
What do these crazy people over there in Europe listen? Well, fabulous. Thank you again, everybody who heard it here on the podcast. How to go viral as a percussionist. So amazing. So much hard work and so much talent, but it works out. And it's all about that love and passion that never stops. It's about fun. So fantastic. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Casey. Wonderful episode. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Ciao.
Thanks, y'all.
Take care. Bye.